My dead grandma is telling me to run away right now.
In the middle of the night during our stay at my in-laws' house, my 4-year-old daughter, Rachel, suddenly sat up and shouted, "What do you mean?" She grabbed my hand as I stood there confused, trying to lead me outside. And when she shared what she had heard, I was left speechless. Rachel had always had a strange ability, and since I believed in it, I was shaking with fear. I never imagined that person would go that far. Never in my life had I been so afraid of another human being. I met Miles, who's 4 years younger than me, when we were 34. We got married a year later. We built our home about a 10-minute drive from his parents' place and began our newlywed life.
Kate, let's be happy together from now on.
Miles was incredibly kind, and his parents, who had raised him, were very gentle as well, welcoming me warmly. Miles worked hard every day, preparing to take over his father's company. To support him, I quit my full-time job and started working part-time, which allowed me more flexibility.
So you're going part-time now? Just looking for an easy life, leaning on Miles, aren't you?
The person who said this with a sarcastic laugh. She hadn't thought highly of me since the day I got married. That person was Miles' sister, Julie. Julie and I are the same age, but she's enjoying her single life and living alone. She looks like a driven career woman. I thought her lifestyle was impressive, even admirable, and sometimes I wondered if I might have turned out like her if I kept working full-time.
Miles, I want some ice cream, so go get some. You can keep the change for yourself.
Again? All right, I'll go.
When we gathered at his parents' house, I often overheard these kinds of conversations. Julie seemed to have doted on Miles since they were kids, and he would still do whatever she asked. Even in his mid-30s, he rarely disagreed with her. But as an only child myself, I couldn't help but feel a little envious. I wish I could be closer with Julie too. However, contrary to my hopes, Julie often treated me harshly. She was quite overbearing and would sometimes visit our house unannounced when Miles wasn't home.
Hey Kate, there's hair on the floor.
I've been busy with work today, so I plan to clean it up later.
Busy? It's just a part-time job, right? Spare me the excuses and just clean it up. Poor Miles has to live in such a dirty place.
With a sigh, Julie spat out those words, and I felt compelled to comply. As I cleaned, she moved on to the kitchen, helping herself to the dish I was halfway through preparing and tasting it without asking.
No, it's so bland. How do you even make something this awful?
It's not finished yet.
Why would he marry a woman like this?
She never listened to me, always bringing up Miles in the conversation, leaving me unable to respond. Besides, I wasn't particularly skilled at housework, so part of me thought her criticism wasn't entirely unfair. But there were things I just couldn't tolerate.
Is this all you have? Just these childish clothes? And wow, your underwear is so plain.
Julie would sometimes open my closet without my permission and go through my belongings. Julie, please stop that. No matter how much I pleaded, Julie would remain nonchalant, sometimes even looking like she enjoyed watching me squirm. Julie keeps checking my closet, even though I've told her to stop. Can you talk to her for me? I pleaded with Miles as soon as he got home.
Really? Maybe she's just curious about what kind of person my wife is.
His response was completely off the mark, and he never took any action, which left me feeling disappointed. As a result, Julie's inappropriate behavior continued. A year after our marriage, When Rachel was born, Julie's behavior escalated even further. She got irritated when Rachel fussed, glaring at me sharply.
She cries so much because you're a terrible mother, and you had a girl. Don't you realize you're the wife of the eldest son?
She kept making snide remarks, eventually blaming me for everything and hurling harsh words my way. Miles had to be aware of this, yet he always pretended not to notice. Julie has been really harsh lately, and honestly, it's tough.
Well, that's your fault, Kate. So what do you expect? Or are you trying to say my sister is hysterical?
I never said that. Miles always took Julie's side, never seriously addressing my concerns, and my frustration with him grew day by day. Is it okay for things to stay like this? I even thought about divorce, but having grown up with separated parents, I knew how lonely that could be, and I didn't want Rachel to experience the same. I reconsidered every time. What helped me endure was the kindness of my in-laws who supported me. But I suddenly lost that support. When Rachel was 6 months old, my mother-in-law passed away from an illness. It was so sudden that none of us had time to process it, and the entire family was filled with sorrow.
I'm worried about Dad, so I'm going to the house for a bit.
Okay, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Since then, Miles frequently visited his parents' house, leaving hours empty more and more often. Sometimes he wouldn't come back until late at night, so I asked him about it.
Dad says he feels lonely being by himself.
But don't you see your dad at work too? Can't you ask Julie to help with things at home?
You're being pretty cold, Kate. Are you saying I should just ignore my lonely parent?
That's not what I meant. I just wanted him to spend time with our little girl, who was growing up so fast. But I realized that parents are important too, so I didn't press the matter further. Time passed, and Rachel turned 4. Miles still visited his parents' house every day, often coming home late at night. You've been really busy lately, haven't you? It must be hard to check on your dad. I can go instead of you.
Julie doesn't like it when you visit, Kate. I don't want to get involved in any more drama, so just don't go to the house.
Miles seemed determined to come up with reasons to keep me away from his parents' house. He's definitely hiding something. Suspicious, I decided to disregard his instructions and went to visit my father-in-law myself. When I arrived, my father-in-law, David, greeted me warmly with a smile and spoke happily.
I've gotten really into cooking lately, so I've even started taking classes.
David's demeanor was so different from what Miles had told me that I couldn't help but feel puzzled. Then, during our conversation, David let something slip, and I was completely taken aback. A few weeks later, one day,
Hey, how about we all get together at my parents' house for dinner?
really? But Julie doesn't like it when I visit, so isn't it better if I stay away? Miles's sudden suggestion made me feel like something was off.
It's fine. She was the one who suggested it this time. Come on, we should go. Get ready.
Unlike usual, Miles seemed almost jittery, but I decided to go along with his plan, taking Rachel with us to his parents' house. As we arrived, a delicious aroma filled the air all the way to the entrance.
Welcome, Kate. I've been preparing dinner while waiting for you.
Julie greeted me with a bright smile, inviting me inside and handing Rachel some snacks and toys she had prepared. I was on guard, expecting her to criticize me like she usually did, but her kindness took me by surprise. Don't let your guard down. She might still try to mess with the food somehow. but my worries turned out to be unfounded.
I asked Miles what your favorite dishes are. I hope they suit your taste.
To my surprise, the table was filled with all my favorite foods. Thank you. I expressed my gratitude, but a part of me still couldn't quite believe it.
Oh, don't worry, I didn't put any poison in it.
No, I didn't think that at all.
Kate, I'm sorry for being so mean to you before. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I hope we can get along from now on.
Julie looked me straight in the eyes, and although I still found her behavior strange, I thought it would be best to try to move past our conflicts. I'd like to get along too. Determined to make an effort, I returned her smile.
That's great. We're the same age, so let's chat more. Oh, how about staying over tonight if you'd like?
But I didn't bring anything with me.
You can use my makeup and whatever you need. Come on, let's do it. Right, Miles?
Julie quickly took charge of the situation, leaving me no room to decline. I guess this is an important first step toward building a better relationship. With that thought, I accepted Julie's invitation. Julie turned out to be a good conversationalist, and before I knew it, I was genuinely enjoying myself. Time flew by, and soon my family of 3 was settling down to sleep together in the room with the family photo. I guess I misunderstood Julie. I think we can find common ground from now on.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm happy you two are getting along.
With Rachel sleeping soundly between us, Miles and I had this conversation as I drifted off to sleep. But then, in the middle of the night,
Mom, we need to run away right now. Grandma said so.
Rachel suddenly sat up and shouted, startling me awake. What do you mean? Still groggy, I tried to understand what she was saying. My mother-in-law had passed away when Rachel was about 6 months old, so she shouldn't remember her. I thought she might be dreaming, but Rachel's eyes were wide open, filled with fear.
If we don't leave, we'll be killed.
Rachel tugged on my hand, urging me to leave the room.
Hurry up.
I turned to tell Miles about what Rachel had said, but he was nowhere to be found. Where has he gone at this hour? But there was no time to dwell on it. I chose to trust Rachel's words and decided we needed to get out. Rachel had always had a mysterious kind of ability. She had accurately predicted the genders of all my friends' unborn babies and even warned me when Miles was going to get hurt. That time, Miles fell down the stairs, but fortunately, his injury was just a mild sprain. Ever since then, both Miles and Julie found Rachel's abilities unsettling. I understood why they might feel that way, so I promised Rachel we'd keep her ability our little secret.
Grandpa needs to come with us, too.
Rachel stopped in front of David's room and rushed inside, shaking him awake with her small hands.
Grandpa, wake up. Hurry.
Please, just come with us. I'll explain everything later. Startled by our urgent voices, David woke up, but he seemed too confused to move right away.
Grandma said so.
Hearing those words from Rachel, he finally agreed to come outside with us. When we reached the front door, we noticed that both Miles's and Julie's shoes were missing. Even more unsettling, their cars were gone from the driveway. Could it be that what Rachel said has something to do with them? We decided to walk back to my house. It was about a 10-minute drive, but on foot, it would take over an hour, even for an adult. I called my mom, asking her to come pick us up. When we arrived at my house in my mom's car, I saw the lights on inside, and both Miles's and Julie's cars were parked outside. Mom, can we stay at your place tonight? Worried that going into the house could be dangerous, we decided to take refuge at my mom's place. My mind was racing, and I found myself wide awake through the night. When morning came, I couldn't shake the need to understand what Rachel's words meant, so I borrowed my mom's car and drove back to Miles's parents' house alone. But when I arrived, the grand house that had stood there just hours earlier was now a charred skeleton, its frame barely standing. No, this can't be real. In front of the ruins, fire trucks, police cars, and ambulances were lined up, surrounded by a crowd of onlookers. Behind a line of yellow tape, I spotted Miles and Julie speaking with police officers and firefighters. I slipped into the crowd to observe without being seen. After some time, a few emergency vehicles left, and the crowd began to disperse, leaving the area in front of the house empty. Miles and Julie stepped outside the taped-off area, staring at the burnt remains of the house, so I hid behind a nearby car to listen in on their conversation.
Damn, it really went up in flames, huh?
They're still searching, but I'm sure that useless granddaughter and daughter-in-law are dead.
Well, if they survived, that'd be a miracle. Once things cool down, I'll remarry my girlfriend and make my new kid the rightful heir to this place.
Hearing those horrifying words left me barely able to stand, my legs trembling uncontrollably.
With Dad gone too, I'll inherit the estate and the company. It'll all be mine right away.
Miles and Julie spoke with laughter in their voices. How could they be so terrifying? But I can't let this slide. Fear and rage coursed through me, leaving me shaking from head to toe. Before they could return home, I rushed to my house, gathered what I needed, and drove back to my mom's place where Rachel was waiting. David, there's something I need to tell you.
This is unbelievable. I won't let them get away with this.
We decided together that we would seek justice against Miles and Julie. Later that evening, I left Rachel with my mom and stood at the entrance of my own home with David. I reached for the doorbell, but then I thought, this is my house. Why ring the bell? I unlocked the door instead. The sound of the lock turning must have been heard inside as Miles peeked out with a fearful expression.
What?
He turned pale, rushed back into the house, and returned with Julie by his side.
Why are you here?
Julie, looking pale, muttered under her breath. But when she noticed our gazes, she snapped to attention and threw herself into David's arms dramatically.
I'm so glad you're alive. We couldn't find you, and they told us they hadn't found anyone in the ashes yet. I was so worried.
Yeah, exactly. I was praying the whole time that Kate and Rachel were safe.
Miles chimed in, trying to match her tone as he pulled me into a hug. I pushed him away, shoving him back. Don't touch me. It was through Rachel that your mom saved us.
Mom? She's been gone for over 4 years now, remember?
Yeah. What kind of nonsense are you spouting? Don't tell me you're going to bring up that kid's weird powers again. It's seriously creepy.
Both of them scowled and scoffed, dismissing what Rachel had said. Fine, whatever. For now, just let us inside. It's my house too, and David is with me. I pushed past them, ushering David into the house. As we entered the living room, Miles caught up, grabbing my shoulder.
Hold on a second.
I told you, don't touch me so casually.
Oh my, Kate, are you being hysterical? Maybe it's just your hormones going out of whack? Geez, no wonder people think poorly of women in their 40s.
Julie smirked and mocked me in her usual tone. she had apologized to me the day before, and that appearance was a lie. Her real nature, sharp and cutting, showed through despite David's presence. Of course I'm angry. You two set this fire, didn't you? I leveled my gaze at Miles and Julie, speaking directly to the heart of the matter.
What are you talking about? You can't just accuse us like that without proof.
Miles stammered, trying to deny it, but Julie remained composed, standing tall with an air of confidence.
Kate, accusing your own family? You're so broken. You must be because you were raised by a single parent. You don't understand family love, do you?
I'm saying this because I do have proof. I overheard you two talking as you watched the house burn this morning. I let my words hang in the air, shifting my gaze between them.
What? Eavesdropping now? And you think whatever you heard in that noisy scene is reliable?
Yeah, Julie's right. The police won't believe vague claims like that.
Julie remained defiant, while Miles, as always, hid behind her, parroting her words. It seemed this dynamic between them had been this way for years. But this recording, it's definitely your voices, isn't it? I pulled out my phone from my pocket and played the audio recording. It was a recording of their conversation from that morning.
Why the hell would you do this?
When Rachel woke me up in the middle of the night and we ran, I suspected you too from the moment I saw you missing. I wasn't sure if it'd pick up anything, but I started recording anyway. The audio quality wasn't perfect, but their voices were distinct enough to be recognized. Confronted with the evidence, Miles and Julie fell silent. I'll be handing this over to the police. They'll definitely take it seriously with this.
Hold on. You all escaped and survived. So what's the problem?
What are you even saying? You put our lives in danger and you burn the house down. This is a crime. Don't you get that? I couldn't help but raise my voice at Miles's absurd statements. And you too, Julie, you need to take responsibility for this crime.
Don't get cocky, you little witch.
Julie's face twisted with rage, and she lunged at me, but I wasn't about to engage in her petty attacks. Now the real battle begins. I took a deep breath, then locked eyes with them again. So, what was that about waiting for things to cool down so you could marry your mistress and make her kid the heir? What did you mean by that?
What are you talking about?
Clearly unprepared for me to confront him about this, Miles stumbled over his words, unable to continue. So you go silent when it's inconvenient for you? But don't worry, I've got evidence. It's about this woman, right? As I spoke, I pulled a photo out of my bag and thrust it toward them.
How did you find out all of this? Julie, what should we do? She knows.
Miles, panicking, turned to Julie for help. But Julie only glared at me silently, offering him no support. Because of this, Miles suddenly lost momentum. The truth was, I had been suspicious of Miles's infidelity for some time and had been quietly gathering evidence. That morning, I had hurried back to collect everything I had found.
How long have you known?
How long, you ask? Maybe since the time you said you were checking on your dad, but kept coming home late every night?
Since then?
Well, it was your dad's words that confirmed my suspicions. When Miles had forbidden me from visiting the house, and I decided to go anyway, I learned something from David. He had said, "The only one who comes to check on me is you, Kate." I had assumed that Miles was frequently visiting his parents' house, so hearing that was a shock. The photos even show you with Julie, which means she approved of your affair, right?
So what if I did? Maybe it's your fault for getting cheated on. You're not exactly the most appealing person, are you?
Julie clearly knew about his affair. The evidence I gathered included photos showing the other woman's belly growing over time, and the most recent one showed Miles and the woman walking with a baby.
Kate, it's not what you think. There's a good reason for all of this.
Miles suddenly switched gears, trying to justify his actions. Just as I was about to shut him down, David, who had been quietly observing until now, stood up and faced Miles and Julie.
What on earth are you two doing? You bully Kate, have an affair, and then try to harm us. What were you thinking?
He was furious, his voice booming, and Miles and Julie recoiled.
Dad, listen to me. This is all Julie's fault. She didn't like Kate, so she introduced me to that woman.
And you are always complaining about your wife. That's why I thought I'd help out by playing matchmaker.
I never asked you to do that. And you were the one who kept saying that Rachel, being a girl, couldn't be the heir.
Well, it's true, isn't it? Dad, you think the same, don't you? But this other woman's child is a boy, so everything's fine now. The family is secure.
Miles and Julie bickered, each trying to blame the other, turning their argument into a pointless back and forth. And from their heated exchange, I finally understood why Julie had always hated me. She couldn't stand the fact that, despite being the same age, I was married with a child, while she had been rejected time and again and remained single. Her jealousy of my happiness drove her to bully me, trying to push me toward divorce. She had used her compliant brother to ensure the other woman had a son. This is insane. It's beyond cruel. My anger toward Julie's scheming surged again, and my fists trembled with barely contained rage.
Enough, both of you.
David's shout brought a hush over them, reducing them to cowed silence, like children scolded by their father.
Kate, I'm truly sorry. It's my fault for raising such fools.
No, you don't have to apologize. They're the ones at fault here. I turned a sincere smile to David. Then I turned sharply toward Miles, glaring at him. I want a divorce. I handed him a divorce form, already signed on my end.
Well, that makes things easier, doesn't it? Now you can officially make your mistress's child the heir.
Before Miles could take the form, Julie snatched it from my hands, practically dancing with glee.
Yeah, that's right. Now everything's settled, I guess.
Miles, matching Julie's tone, shot back with a smug expression.
The heir? Don't be ridiculous. As long as I'm alive, I won't let you two have your way.
Dad, what are you talking about? This is a good thing, isn't it?
Julie, I'm cutting ties with you. You're no longer my daughter. Don't contact me ever again. And you too, Miles. You're fired from the company.
David declared this to both of them, his voice filled with finality.
Wait, you can't do this. Without me, the company is doomed. Are you really going to throw it all away?
Yeah, Dad. If you cut ties with us, you'll end up all alone. And what are you going to do about the inheritance?
In the end, their only concern was about money. Hearing this, David's expression grew momentarily sorrowful.
You two are no longer my family. The company and the inheritance, none of it concerns you anymore.
What?
Julie erupted in anger, while Miles grew increasingly desperate.
Dad, please reconsider.
Miles clung to his father's shoulders, shaking him in desperation.
The heir I've chosen is the one who saved our lives, Rachel.
With those words, David let out a deep sigh.
Wait, Rachel is my child, so that means I'll get a share of the inheritance too, right?
Miles smiled slyly as he directed this outrageous question at me. I couldn't believe he would say something like that in this situation. Rachel says she doesn't want to see you anymore. She's been through a lot with everything that happened, and she hardly has any memories of you as her father.
I'm her dad. You can't take that away from me.
This is the result of you doing nothing for 4 years. After the divorce, I will respect my daughter's wishes and won't allow any visitation.
No, I don't want a divorce. Please, Kate.
Miles broke down, wailing loudly as he clung to me.
Kate, I'm sorry for everything. Please convince Dad to change his mind.
Even Julie, now desperate, begged me to intervene on their behalf. I know you're focused on the divorce and cutting ties right now, but don't forget, you two are going to the police over the fire. You understand that, right?
Please, don't tell the police. I'll be a good husband, a better father. I won't let Julie control me anymore. Just let us be a family again.
Please just spare me the police. What will happen to the career I've worked so hard to build?
Even now, they only seem to care about themselves, saying whatever they could to get their way. Don't be ridiculous. You need to take responsibility and atone for what you've done. I rejected them firmly, leaving no room for argument. With that, Miles and Julie muttered "no way" and collapsed to their knees in defeat. After that, I took them to the police and submitted the audio recording as evidence. Both of them confessed and they were arrested for their involvement in the fire. The divorce with Miles was finalized, and he was ordered to pay me alimony of $30,000 and monthly child support of $600. Since he'll be behind bars for a while, I plan to ensure he pays up once he's released. I also received $10,000 in compensation from his affair partner. Julie, like Miles, received her sentence and was fired from the company. Abandoned by her father and separated from the brother she once doted on, Julie ended up all alone. Well, she brought it upon herself. As for me, David and I remain in touch, and he's enthusiastically working to keep the business going until Rachel can take over. Rachel is excited too, saying, "I'm going to be the president of Grandpa's company." Life is peaceful now, and I feel incredibly happy.